Well, first and foremost, let me just thank you for taking some time out of your schedule today to spend time with me and Politic 365. We really appreciate it.
Well, you're quite welcome. It's an honor for me as well.
Thank you. So, we just kicked off our college tour, our Voice Your Vote college tour, 12 schools around Florida and North Carolina with the Republican and Democratic National Conventions coming up. We're really focused on reaching out to young people and finding out what they think, what are the issues that are most important to them. From your perspective, what do you want to see from young people this year?
When you talk about our future, and there's a lot of talk about building a workforce that can compete globally in America. Well, if we want to accomplish those goals and have a bright future, the answer lies with our young people. I had an opportunity just last evening to go out to the University of Central Florida and meet with about 100 young students who are part of the College Democrat Club. And they were very, very excited, very energetic. And what I told them was that if we are going to win, then we've got to keep the energy up. They're really the motivation and the force that really drives, I think, not only the presidential election, but all the way down to the local ticket. And so we want to see them engaged and involved, because there is not anything that we can do, we cannot do without young people.
What would you say are some of the primary issues that you're focused on as a candidate for Congress that you want young people to be acutely attuned to?
Back to building that competitive workforce. We can't do that unless our young people are trained, unless they are able to get a college education. We say America is the land of opportunity. Then we have to make sure that there are processes and programs in place that allow students, regardless of their socioeconomic status or racial background, ethnic background, to have a college education or get training or whatever they want. It's about having that opportunity for them. Education is the key. As the police chief, I spend a lot of time talking to different groups, and I say, look, there are a lot of things that you can attain, material things in this world that people can take away from you. But once you get your education, no one can ever take that away from you, and it will propel you to the next level in your life.
So I love that you focus on education, and so far, that's been one of the primary areas of interest for some of the students we've been talking to on the road on this college tour. What do you think you're going to bring to the table that's a little bit different than some of your predecessors when it comes to that discussion on education?
When I think about my own background, born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, been in Orlando almost 30 years. My mother, I'm the youngest of 7 children. My mother cleaned houses for a living, and my father was a janitor. But even though we grew up poor, my parents taught us that, look, you can overcome your present circumstances. If you're willing to work hard and play by the rules, then you can be anything you want to be and do anything that you want to do. And when I look at my own life, I was able to be as successful as I have been because of the opportunities that were presented to me. And now I believe I have a personal obligation to make sure that those same opportunities are available for other people who are willing to work hard for them, regardless of their race, their gender, their economic status, or ethnic background. And I feel that obligation. I believe that Congress will allow me the opportunity to remember where I came from, and then make sure that those opportunities are available for people living in this country.
So I like when we talk about kind of creating opportunity or helping people understand the opportunities that are available to them, because I think if you consider where we are now politically, there's a disconnect, I think, between that opportunity, the potential, the American dream, and then what most Americans are actually facing, when you consider high unemployment, low job turnaround, issues with health care and education. How do we start to dig out of all of this?
Well, I think it's important to send members to Congress who have the ability to put people above politics. People who will not play political games, people who are not so focused on making one president fail that they've really forgotten the issues that they're supposed to care about, issues that really affect people back home in their districts. We've seen the political games, we've seen an effort in this country to divide. But what I know for a fact is that there is a proposal that's on the table out there that has changed the qualifications for students to be eligible to receive Pell Grants, which means less students will be able to receive Pell Grants. That's a problem. I know there is a proposal out there that will double the interest rate for student loans. That's a problem. That lessens the ability to have the opportunity to live the dream that I talked about. And so this is not about a particular party. It's not about a particular individual. It's about making sure that students in our country, the country that we love to say is the greatest in the world, if we really believe that, then we may need to make sure that students have the opportunity to receive the proper training, develop the skills, get the education that they need to succeed in America and compete globally.
So, you know, one of the things that I think that's great about you, besides your energy, right, is that if you look at your background, tell me a bit about how you make that transition in public service, right? Because one is, you could almost say police work is kind of grassroots because you're dealing with people every single day.
It really
and now a member of Congress. So tell me about that transition.
When I talk to different voters around the district who will say, well, you never run for public office before. I said, no, I've never had to win an election before, but I have certainly been in public office for a long time. I've been getting out in the community and talking to people about real issues. We had a 40% reduction in violent crime in the city of Orlando during my tenure as chief. The mayor said it is the most dramatic reduction that we have ever seen in the history of Orlando. I believe we were able to do that because I focused on more than just arresting people and putting them in jail. If we were really going to change communities, we had to change people's lives who lived in those communities. So we focused on things like economic development and education. Persons who lived in high crime areas who didn't have their GEDs, for example, or their high school diplomas, we at the police department sponsored a GED program so they could get the education that they need and get a better job regardless of where they lived and they were trying to raise their family. It goes back to everybody should have an ability to live the dream in America. I had to manage a 1,000-person agency, balance a $123 million budget. And I had to do that during some of the toughest years economically for our city. Had to make drastic reductions. I had to reduce my budget by millions of dollars, but was still able to do more with less and had some tremendous successes. It was about, didn't matter whether I was a Democrat or Republican. The people who at the department, didn't matter if they were Democrat or Republican. The people that we worked with in the community, we didn't care what party they were a part of. It was about identifying problems, sitting around a table, reaching across the aisle and coming up with real solutions to some tough issues. We can do that when people are willing to lay politics aside. Washington is in a mess right now because people are playing political games. We deserve better than that.
Tell me though briefly, you know, if elected, November 6th, you know, big day, what do you really plan to focus on policy-wise that first year out the gate, and how do you bring young people into that process with you?
Well, you know, it's really all about the future. Everything we do today should really be about preparing for the future of America. Roughly 23 million Americans are unemployed or underemployed. So the first priority has to be creating jobs. I think there are some tremendous opportunities to create jobs right now, particularly in the state of Florida. A couple of years ago, we had an opportunity to receive $2 billion for high-speed rail. When we look at high-speed rail, it's been in other countries for years. When we look at Interstate 4, which is the major thoroughfare, the I-4 corridor, just about everybody who travels it will sit in traffic one time or another. But we had a governor who made a decision to turn back $2 billion because he did not want to support an initiative that he thought belonged to the president. When we know that high-speed rail, for example, could have been good for Central Florida, not only would it have bridged businesses, brought businesses together, it would have freed up traffic on the interstate, would have been good for Central Florida, and would have created thousands of jobs. We have schools bridges, roadways that need to be renovated. Those are things that people can do right now if we get our priorities right in this state and have people in Washington who are fighting for the initiatives back home. So jobs has to be the number one concern. And when we look at this high-tech world that we're living in, I mean, I have a 22-year-old son, I know that generation. But when we talk about getting young people involved, that's the generation to really move us to the next level. And as we create those high-tech jobs, for example, we need to have a trained workforce that can move into those positions. So getting people back, putting America back to work has to be the number one priority. But then education. In the state of Florida, we have a lot of work to do in terms of education. We have great teachers who are working hard. Many of them are taking money out of their own homes to help students who need help, to buy those supplies that need help. But we still have a lot of work to do. So education has to be jobs and education. Foreclosures, American dream, living in a home, being able to keep roof over your head and food on the table. And when we look at the number of foreclosures that we're facing in our state, these are not irresponsible people. What we're seeing now is a shift. These are not irresponsible people who have just gotten more house than they could afford and not paid their bills. Right. These are people who are now struggling to stay in their home because of the economic downturn that we're facing. Small businesses. We love to say that small businesses are the backbone of our country. In 2004, there was a study that was done that said every new job that was created in the country was created through small business. Right now, over half of America's workforce works for small businesses. So knowing that for a fact, we have to do things to support our small businesses and keep them solvent. I support working with Congress to give tax credits, for example, to small businesses to be able to hire additional staff or pay additional benefits for their employees. I support those businesses, rewarding those businesses that keep jobs in America as opposed to rewarding businesses and corporations that ship jobs overseas. It's about being made in America, manufactured in America. And although we do see some increases, some progress in terms of manufacturing in America, there is still so much work to be done to bring it back to America. So I'm excited about going to Congress and excited about those initiatives and working for the people in Florida District 10.
Excellent. Well, we're excited at Politic 365 to watch your career continue to blossom. You've done so many amazing things, and I think you set a strong example not only for those interested in seeking elected office, but for young women of color in particular.
Well, you know, I appreciate that. And I was just reading a quote from Rosa Parks, who says that our life has to be a model for others. And, you know, when I look at the opportunities that I've had a pretty amazing life, an amazing career. And I try every day to be an inspiration to others in my community, but particularly young girls. It's hard to believe that you could be a police chief in Orlando if you've never, as a woman, if you've never seen that before. It's hard to believe that you can have grown up in the home of a maid and a janitor and go on to be a member of Congress if you've never seen that before. So it's an exciting time. I'm working hard to earn the support of the people in the district and earn a seat in the United States Congress as well.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate you sitting down with us, and best of luck on November 6th and in the future.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity, and keep up the good work.